Hello, welcome to the Week in Review. As our regular viewers well know, we take 10 of the top stories of the week just ended and delve into them in some depth. I am Mudumbuj. Today, what have we got coming up? Well, we dive into what we call Assetgate, the investigative report that has sparked outrage, not simply online, but a group of Gambians decided to go and protest but were denied a permit, yet they went ahead and you can guess the consequences. There were arrests made. And also, NAWEC terminated its 7-year partnership with Car Power Ship. We'll go into that. And 27 Gambians were repatriated from Mauritania during the week. Why was that? And President Barrow also met the UN envoy for West Africa to discuss what? Draft constitution. We have that and many more to come. I've got here to help me delve into these stories my colleague and the presenter, the anchor of State of Affairs, our flagship current affairs program, Mr. Ali Sise. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboch. It's a pleasure to always share this platform with you. Thank you for having me.
And we've also got Mr. Lamin Sonko, the sign language interpreter. Welcome, everybody. So, straight to the biggest wave, as it were, during the week. An investigative report by the Republic, Mr. Fatou Dabo was the author, sparked so much outrage all over the place. The report was on how the former president, Jammeh's seized assets were disposed of, suggesting corruption, conflict of interest issues. There were all sorts of things, a whole tangled web of accusations there. Let's just take a look at this clip.
Public backlash on the article has been swift. Some protesters formed a citizens group demanding full disclosure of who acquired the former president's assets. But when they were denied a permit to deliver a letter to the Attorney General and went ahead with a peaceful march, several were arrested. The Gambia Press Union has strongly condemned the arrest and the permit denial, calling it a violation of the rights to peaceful assembly. The National Human Rights Commission echoed these concerns in a press release on Saturday, labeling the detentions of protesters and journalists as a breach of basic freedoms. Now, the pressure has seemingly forced Parliament's hand. The clerk of the National Assembly has announced an extraordinary session scheduled for Wednesday, May 14th and Thursday, May 15th at 10 a.m. on both days.
It's extraordinary there, Aliu. Before we get into that, let me just ask this about the article itself, really. What makes these allegations so explosive?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboch. It's a pleasure once again to share this platform with you. Quite relevant question. This is something that, we've been discussing in our homes, in offices, regarding the sales of Jammeh's assets after he left the country. We know a commission of inquiry was set up in 2017. The Jammeh Commission in this case, which was, assigned to inquire into the financial dealings of former President Yahya Jammeh. And after the completion of the commission, they come up with their recommendations, and then, the assets of Jammeh were sold. This investigative piece by my colleague and friend, Mustafa K. Dabo, kind of exposed some irregularities in the manner in which, most of these assets were sold. Some believe, in the report it's indicated that, some of these assets were sold at an, low value, unlike, compared to what exactly, this will have been sold of.
That's it. But here we'll also be careful that these are simply allegations.
Allegations,
it's a report.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing has been definitively, agreed on.
Exactly.
So it's important to just note that, then continue.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, when the report was released, we've seen the government through the Ministry of Justice also issued a statement, trying to explain that, everything followed due process. They acted within the law in selling of Jammeh's assets. And then the findings of this investigative piece, the allegations made in that report, actually spark anger, among people, which resulted in a group called Gambians Against Looted Assets. That's the Gala, who actually, followed the due process equally. They wrote a letter to the office of the IGP, asking for a peaceful protest. And then this permit was denied for reasons that we don't know. Maybe the IGP could explain, because there was no explanation in the letter that the IGP's office sent to, this particular group denying their request. And then when they converge at the Makati Square, or now Never Again Memorial Arch, to march to, the Ministry of Justice to hand over a petition, they were met, and then most of them were arrested by the police. 27 of them arrested, taken to different, police locations within the Greater Banjul area. But for me, the issue that angered most people also was the manner in which the police handled the whole situation.
Absolutely. So there are two angles here, aren't there?
Yeah.
First, government's response. Yeah. You see, we shouldn't conflate government's response and the police response, because we would like to think that the police have got operational independence. Yeah. They're really not representing the government. So let's try to follow this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you make of the government's response? We got that statement, didn't we? But it was just so generic that we did everything according to law. But for most of us, it didn't quite address the specific allegations made in the report.
And that's the point. And when you look at the investigative piece, most of the allegations that are being made in this report are allegations that we have had before by the then Secretary to the Commission, Alaji Mamadi Kurang. He couldn't complete his term as Secretary to the Commission because there were some issues, within the Commission itself. And according to him, just like it's been, alleged in this report by Mustafa, there were some conflict of interest, within the Commission as to, the sale of Gambians assets. And aside from that as well, the issue of the auditing of the sale of Gambians assets, we have seen a report, purportedly from the auditors who actually audited some of these assets, and what they are telling us is that it was noted that the treasury receipt amounted to $706 million, $306,614 were disclosed in the financial statement that was given to the auditors, forming part of the proceeds from the sale of Gambians assets. But the auditors went further to request for documentation relating to the disposal of the assets. Actually, these documents includes, the bidding documents, the advertisement made on the sale of Gambians assets, because if this was open tender, there should be advertisement on the papers and the media that, we are going to, sell Gambians assets, and it's open for people to come and then express their interest. Also, the valuation of the assets disposed and by whom. These were some of the documents that the auditors had asked for. Also, the appointment of the auctioneer, documents that the auditors needed, and also the license of the auctioneer, because you should have a license as an auctioneer. But what we understand, however, these documents remained, actually outstanding up to the time of finalizing the audit report. Which actually tend to cast doubt on the entire process, and it has a huge implication. That is what we are seeing right now. There's that risk of lack of transparency and accountability in the whole process, and then also the amount of in the financial statements might not also, there could be misstatement in the financial statements, because these documents that the auditors have asked for weren't provided for, and also what is in the financial statements might not be a true representation of what exactly these assets were sold.
Absolutely, but you see, Aliu, this is really our issue. This is where we have a slight problem, isn't it? We need a kind of platform where we can test all of these allegations. Hence the necessity really for an inquiry, the National Assembly, they're being recalled out there in an extraordinary session on Wednesday and Thursday to consider whether to have a full investigation. And that is absolutely crucial, isn't it? We need to test all these allegations and try to see what's the realistic, what's the picture.
I quite agree with you. And then for me, it's better late than never, but for me, this is something that the National Assembly, having that oversight over the executive, should have asked for. The moment the Attorney General came to the Parliament and said, I cannot issue this list because I'm going to infringe on the privacy of the buyers. For God's sake, these are public assets. Yes, we can say Gambians asset, but to some extent, it is national assets. it belongs to the whole country. And then to say, okay, you cannot provide this list even to the National Assembly, then that's a question mark. And for me, it's better late than never, but I believe this is something that the National Assembly should have really pursued. But actually, it's politics. They were divided over it. Some believe there was no need to share the list. And now we are seeing people who actually were even against it are now coming out saying, okay, they are going to set up a committee. But that's what that now everyone is trying to score a political points in this whole thing now.
For some of us, when we had the Attorney General say that he couldn't release the list, we thought, what a scandalous thing to say. If you're really interested in transparency, what is confidential about these are the assets and we sold the assets to Mr. A, Ms. B, whatever. What's actually wrong with that? So one wasn't quite sure whether perhaps there might be this law or principle, the right to anonymity. One is not sure whether the right to anonymity would apply in areas like this. But apart from the government response, now we go to the police. Yes, this is really quite interesting. According to the organizers, they were not given any reasons why they were denied the permit to go and protest. What do you make of that? Can public bodies really take certain decisions without giving us reasons, as if you're proclaiming an edict?
Exactly, because like you said, I mean, I'm sure the group must have made everything in black and white as to why they want to go out and just conduct this peaceful protest and, of course, hand over a petition to the Attorney General. They were very clear in their letter. And I expect the same from the police as well. If you are rejecting my application, you should give me reasons for me to know why you are actually rejecting the application. And like we said earlier on, I think somehow they mishandle, I mean, this whole thing, because if I was a police or if I was the IGP in this case, why wouldn't I just give them a permit? Give them permit, let them just go and then have their peaceful march pass, hand over their petition and disperse. Because right now, what you are spending just to make sure you are able to contain this protest is far more than what you will have spent just to organize your men, arrange these people, organize them, march from the Never Again Memorial Arch to the Attorney General. That's less than 500 meters. So for me, there are certain things that you do, I mean, you think, I mean, you are doing in favor of the government, but you are just kind of giving a bad image. You are just kind of giving a bad PR image to the government over issues that are unnecessary. You remember, I mean, it also happened, I mean, when a particular group also came out to protest against the state of the ferries at the terminal. Just few people were sitting at the arch and they just came with their pickup and started arresting people. There are certain things that for me, it's not even necessary for them to, use certain force just to attract unnecessary attention. And I think, I mean, they will learn from this because that has angered so many people. There are so many people I'm seeing who are now coming out asking for the unconditional release of these boys. They wouldn't have been at the actual protest if the permit was given. But because they are now angered by the arrest of these people, I mean, the kind of disappearance, people don't know where they are. Some people, I mean, people are arguing, okay, others are at Jabang anti-crime unit, others have been moved from one police station to another. So all these things is just, kind of, agitating the public to come out and protest.
That's it.
Which is not actually, for me, it doesn't tell well. It's coming at a very wrong timing for even the president. Elections are coming up next year. So there are certain things that, these people need to be very careful. I mean, the advisors and everyone should really be very, very conscious of certain things.
Absolutely. This is the classic case of making a mountain out of a molehill. Perhaps, the sort of thing that would have fizzled out easily because of the miscalculated decisions. Then it has sort of inflamed, as it were, fanning the flame, as they call it.
Because that's what you do. And when that happens, then you have people, come out on the streets, occupy Westfield. At some point, it's about people power. You cannot overpower them. And
it's important. I think, well, we've spent a bit of time here, but it's really very important because there are so many issues here. The idea of notice and permission. Since Yahya Jammeh's period, this is really when we had this practice of sort of applying for a permit, because the traditional liberal way is this. You're really giving the police notice that we want to protest on a given day. So it is the police, it is their right to consider that. Yes, you consider the security aspects, you also consider the rights of other people. You have a right to protest, but you don't have the right to interfere with pedestrians. You don't have a right perhaps to interfere with vehicles. You cannot stop traffic and that sort of thing, isn't it? So for the police to refuse the threshold must be so high.
Exactly, Mr. Mbonde.
There must be clear and present danger, isn't it? So now we come back to this group. When were they formed? A few days ago, after the report,
the investigative report.
After the investigative report, how many of them, how many membership, how many would have been willing to come out had the police not taken this decision? So one is thinking, what were possibly the security risks? One cannot see it.
Yeah.
What was the reason really for denying them?
Yeah.
One couldn't see it.
Exactly.
No wonder there were no reasons given. Is this a question of one asserting one's power, not necessarily authority, the difference between power and authority? This was a very curious case here.
It's like, I mean, the police are now trying to, I mean, more like endorse corruption, as alleged in the report, and not willing to listen to the voices of the people, okay? Which is quite important in this case, because at the end of the day, I mean, these are the people that actually voted in the president in 2021. So when people want to come out to express their anger or frustration, give them that. It's their right. You see, because you remember, I mean, this Public Order Act, you know, this law has been here since Jammeh's time. You remember when the late Solo Sandeng went out for electoral reforms, I mean, they were arrested and it happened, and then subsequently, I mean, others came out, including, you know, the leader of the United Democratic Party. They were also arrested for violating this Public Order Act. But for me, these are laws that we shouldn't be, I mean, yes, I mean, every country, you know, must have laws that will regulate or, you know, dictate how people behave and all those things. But to some extent, there are certain things that for me, the law shouldn't just come into play, especially in this case where, I mean, people are just going out to express their frustration about a particular report, which kind of alleges that there have been so much corruption and all those things in the way and manner in which these assets were sold. And then for me, knowing some of the people that are behind this whole protest, I mean, I see them as people who are quite responsible, people that I don't think they will go out burning tires and doing certain things. I mean, the likes of Texani, Bob Keita, I mean, you name them. So I don't see the reason why actually the police came up with this decision, but for me it doesn't tell well. It doesn't tell well, and then, you know, yes, I mean, since Barrow came into power, we have seen the country has really done well in terms of, you know, ensuring that, you know, the people have their liberty to express their views and all those things. So the police should avoid anything that is going to tarnish the image or that's going to, you know, put to question the records that have already been made under the current government.
That is very, very important.
It's very important.
Yes, when it comes to the Press Freedom Index,
exactly.
We're doing well. I think last year we were 10th, and we retained that position. But some people are pointing out that perhaps the new vulnerabilities are this. Wherever you have a request to protest on an issue that appears to be critical to government, Marnyang made a list.
Exactly.
It appears as if when we find ourselves in such situations, the police tend to refuse. There's a pattern emerging, and the police must fight that. It's unhealthy. You know, they're a state institution, not necessarily government.
They must.
Anyway, thank you very much there, Ali. We'll go to our next story. Oh, we finally got the white smoke from the Sistine Chapel. An American cardinal succeeded Pope Francis, Leo XIV. Let's just take a listen to this.
American by birth, Leo is deeply connected to Latin America. He spent decades in Peru as a missionary and church leader, earning Peruvian citizenship and a reputation for working with marginalized communities and fostering unity.
Absolutely. First, U.S. born, Pope. But what did you make of the papal conclave? Because in the office, when we were talking about white smoke and black smoke and the like, a good number of my colleagues, my younger colleagues, really didn't understand it. You know, this sort of the secrecy. It must be the most secretive selection process in the world. Ever, and the arcane traditions. What did you make of that?
Yeah, actually, I've watched videos, I mean, where I've seen huge crowd outside, you know, cheering, you know, others look so joy, others look somehow emotional. And then immediately it happens, I heard Mr. Cole, one of our colleagues here, I mean, was telling, okay, it seems, I mean, they have, you know, identified the next pope, but it wasn't clear at the time who the person was. So that shows how secretive all these things is. But I mean, like you said, I mean, we wish the new Pope Leo all the best, and we hope, I mean, he will follow in the footsteps of Pope Francis in, you know, advocating for global unity. He's coming at a time when the world is witnessing crisis, conflicts here and there, and, you know, he will have a huge role as a role model. I mean, that has millions of followers. I mean, when he talks, I mean, people listen, and we hope, you know, he will serve as an ambassador in promoting and advocating for peace around the world.
That's it. A good number of commentators said that the idea here was to have a continuity, as it were, Pope. And this one quite interesting, you know, born in Chicago, but spent a lot of time in Peru. Yeah. And it is on that continent where you find what they call liberation theology. So one is hoping that he will be a reformist. Yeah. Pope. In the tradition of Francis, perhaps not going quite as far with the LGBTQ, that was a very sensitive one, but largely in that tradition, being a moral voice, especially in this geopolitical topsy-turvy we are in, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, I mean, a lot is expected from him, knowing the fact that, I mean, he didn't just come out of the blue to be appointed. I mean, there were other, you know, candidates that I've also read that were actually, you know, also, you know, eligible, I mean, to succeed the late Pope Francis. But again, like you said, I mean, he has a huge role to play, I mean, in ensuring that, I mean, we achieve global peace, but equally, you know, to ensure that, I mean, he follows in the footsteps of the late Pope Francis. I mean, in terms of, I mean, ensuring that, I mean, that compassion, that, I mean, outreach and unity is further consolidated.
Thank you very much. One wonders whether the fact that he's American had much to do with this decision. Anyway, let's move on to another story. During the week, we marked Midwives Day, International Midwives Day, and health professionals. And here, the way we marked it was a Tangier clinic. There was a free screening for certain diseases, certain conditions related to women, for instance, cervical cancer. Let's just take a listen.
My association will once again use a day like today in partnership with UNFPA to join the global body and organization to renew our call on government to invest in midwife education and practice. Investing in midwife is paramount because this will help to scrub the serious shortage of midwife in our health facility, because almost all our health facilities have shortage of midwife.
That's it. There we just had David Day, President of the National Association of Gambia Nurses and Midwives. This year's theme is midwives critical in every crisis. We just recall COVID-19, isn't it? An emergency place. It's advisedly chosen, isn't it? Because when you look around the world, so it tells you that we need them today perhaps more than ever.
Yeah. Yes, like you said, I mean, a quite significant day for the midwives to assess, I mean, the achievements, but equally look at the challenges that are facing. You have heard him talk about the need to have more trained midwives to meet the increasing demand in our health facilities, and I mean organizing this thing through I mean free cervical and breast cancer screening for women is good, because it's very much prevalent in our society, and you know, having them come out to, you know, provide these free services to women is welcoming. And I hope, I mean, from this also government will start considering, you know, giving more support, and of course, I mean investing more in ensuring, you know, we have more well-trained, I mean, midwives, I mean, in our hospitals.
That's it. And I was reading the statistics, very interesting when it comes to nurses and midwives. About 90% of sexual, reproductive, maternal, newborn and adolescent health services, they handle. Yeah. They handle that. They're so significant. Yet, when you look at the other statistic, a good number of them we are losing. Yeah. So many
yeah.
of them, they're going to the West,
Exactly.
and they like, people say that you probably have more Nigerian nurses in the NHS in England than you have in Nigeria. That sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one side of migration. I mean, brain drain. I mean, you have most people. I mean, they will travel overseas. I mean, with the intention to acquire knowledge and come back. But when they get there and they see better opportunities that they probably wouldn't have back home, they will choose to stay. Like you said, I mean, most of these countries, I mean, they have more professionals working in foreign countries, I mean, than in their own countries. Not because they don't want to come back and serve, but perhaps they believe, I mean, they wouldn't get what they're getting over there if they return home. Like you said, Nigeria is an example. I remember when I was in the US, when I visited Memphis, I mean, we visited a university, I mean, where we found almost, I mean, 3 of their lecturers, I mean, are all from Nigeria. And I was teasing, I was like, so when are you going back to Niger? But I mean, you could see that, yes, I mean, they would love to go back and serve their people, but perhaps what they're earning there wouldn't be something that they will get when they get back to Nigeria. But that's why I said, I mean, we need more investment in this sector. We need more motivation, better wages for our healthcare providers.
Absolutely. And when we look at the statistic regarding Gambia, when it comes to midwives, we've got 0.27 midwives per 1,000, well below what is recommended. There's 4.45 people to do that.
And especially now when, I mean, so many people, I mean, they are much more comfortable having their wives, I mean, delivered in hospitals. We need more midwives trained.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. Even though there, I must say that when we were younger, when people went out to Europe or America to study, immediately they came back.
Yeah.
You see,
exactly,
there was that
you
know, advantage of having much more money there, but somehow there was something else that brought you back.
Yeah.
We used to say, dafa jangi.
Exactly.
Now
wow.
it's dafa hustling.
Yeah.
Now to our next story. NAWEC during the week announced that it had terminated its contract with Car Power. Let's just take a look and listen.
Today is, the realities now are, we do not need Car Power today because we have options. And this business is it's just like a market. You know, you have different salesmen selling the same commodity. So you go and you buy from the cheapest commodity.
Yes, the realities now are that, well, it's a market.
Yeah.
You can leave one and go and buy
yeah.
Anywhere else. So what did you think of that? Because some of us thought, okay, so what Car Power was supplying, where would you get that from?
That's a big question mark that, I mean, they haven't gone into detail as to telling us what these options are. Perhaps OMBG, perhaps it could be Senelec, who are still providing electricity to the Gambia. But it's also good, I mean, looking at the huge, I mean, amount of money that they have been paying Car Power to provide electricity. Maybe they could now use that funds to, you know, further develop, I mean, or further provide more machines that could, I mean, continue to supply the increasing demand of electricity in this country. But I mean, you know, the government is talking about, I mean, ensuring universal access to electricity by the end of this year, and that means that, I mean, there will be more demand as far as electricity is concerned. But like you said, I mean, I just hope, I mean, the departure of Car Power wouldn't disrupt, I mean, the uninterrupted power supply in this country. But let's see how it goes. I mean, Car Power is living well and good, and let's see, I mean, what the other options are and whether those options are good enough, I mean, to cover what Car Power was doing.
That's it. So the idea of the uninterrupted power supply, I'm not sure whether we've reached that yet, even though recently we've been doing very well.
Yeah, definitely.
But we need a longer horizon to really, you know, what is going on.
Honestly, recently NAWEC has been doing well in terms of ensuring stable electricity.
But there, when he talked about the market, I said, okay, so maybe we are done with Car Powership, but something similar.
Yeah.
You know, we're going out to shop, as it were. We're going to shop for electricity. So this fundamental scheme of outsourcing it, we cannot run away from that. Then which will make you think, but why have we stopped with Car Power? Is this one cheaper? He mentioned it there, so it will be interesting to see whatever you're going to substitute this with. How expensive would that be? That was, listening to him there, I wasn't quite sure.
Exactly. I mean, because if you are saying, okay, we have terminated the contract with car power, maybe, I mean, you are getting something much cheaper and reliable.
A market.
Yeah, exactly.
You can
it's
buy
a market,
from
so
anywhere.
you can buy from anywhere. So I just hope also what they are going in for is going to be something that is, I mean, much cheaper, but also sustainable. I mean, that also matters. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, disappointing just to end car power's contract and you go into something that that you can sustain, and the next minute, I mean, you start having that frequent power outages. But for now, I think they are doing well. I mean, the electric supply is kind of stable, I mean, these days, and I hope that continues.
Thank you very much there, Ali. To have your point, the fifth story, during the week, the Gambia Press Union, joined the rest of the world to mark World Press Freedom Day. And this year's theme, reporting in the brave new world. Quite dystopian there. Let's just take a watch and listen.
Artificial intelligence is changing not just how we tell stories, but also how truth is assessed, contested, and defended. While AI offers opportunities for innovation and efficiency, it also raises urgent ethical, safety, and credibility concerns for journalists, particularly around misinformation, bias, and job displacement.
There is no threat to media freedom in this country today. And I think everybody can agree with me on that. The Gambia has risen up in the index of media freedom since His Excellency, the President Adama Barrow, came into office. This improvement in our media freedom standing is indeed well earned. And I've just heard from the President of the GPU that yesterday's ranking placed us at the same level as last year. Let's compare to 7-8 years ago. We are bad. It's a challenge. All of us have to work together. All stakeholders in the ecosystem has to work together to make sure the ranking, at least our aim is to go to number 1. Therefore, what we'll do with the GPU is to sit and look at the ranking and look at the reasons why we have not made progress and work together to tackle those challenges so that at least next year our ranking can go up.
Yes, from 10th we want to go to 1st.
Yeah.
We just heard the minister, no threats to media freedom. What do you make of that?
I kind of find that quite interesting. And yes, I mean, under the current government, I mean, the media is much more freer, to be honest with you. I mean, for some of us who have been in the profession since 2008, I mean, we can compare what it used to obtain in the previous government and now. Yes, I mean, the media is much more freer, but again, we must accept that there are still some draconian media laws that are still in our books. So meaning we are just enjoying the kindness of the government and the president, but there's nothing binding in the laws that will say, okay, journalists are somehow protected. I mean, these are some of the laws that we really need to, I mean, look at to see how best we can repeal them. But equally, I mean, we have seen some instances where journalists have been harassed. I mean, the latest protests we saw, some journalists who were just doing their work were being harassed by the police. I mean, some of them were even briefly arrested and released. So these are some of the challenges, I mean, that we are facing. And also, I mean, the issue of, I mean, information. I mean, we know now that they are coming with a new law, the cybercrime bill and all those things. I mean, the Criminal Offence Act, which has been I mean, passed by the National Assembly. So these are some of the laws that might kind of restrict us as far as, you know, I mean, freedom of expression is concerned. But overall, on the positive side, to be honest, the media is much more free, and now people can express their views without fear of being picked up at night. I mean, people can, I mean, at least kind of have access to information, I mean, which wasn't the case in the previous government. But like you said, we still have much more to do. And then coming back to the World Press Freedom Day, I mean, you know, is important. I mean, it allows us as journalists to actually regroup, sit together and discuss, I mean, some of the achievements that we have been able to accomplish as a profession, but equally some of the challenges faced in terms of ensuring, I mean, we achieve, good journalism in this country. But like you said, the team is looking at the impact of isolated AI. We know the advent of AI has its own advantages and disadvantages. So this is important that we discuss, the impact of AI on our work as journalists.
Absolutely. And even the theme, reporting in the brave new world. You see, the brave new world is the title of a book, of a novel, where this scenario of advanced technology, but again, human beings socially and ethically, you are not so advanced. See, this is really what our problem is. So how are you going to use this technology? It's a really very bleak, dystopian world. It appears that the new media ecology, it is this dystopian world. AI, you can fake things, misinformation,
disinformation.
We are in for a long night.
Exactly. And now, it on the other side, it has made the work much more easier for people now, even when you're writing your reports. But it also depends how you use the app, how you use the AI. On the other side, also, it kind of makes some journalists too lazy. And perhaps at some point, some people might even lose their jobs because of AI. But in this also, we also try as much as possible to kind of domesticate the team locally, and then it was on media responsibility and professionalism, because we believe, in as much as, there's that media pluralism, in as much as that, we have been so many people now embracing this profession, unlike before. We also still have challenges in terms of, having that quality journalism in this country. We also need more well-trained journalists, and that will actually require all of us working together to ensure, we have people who are just not coming because, they want to be popular, or people who are just coming in because, they have nothing to do and they feel like, okay, I can just be into any media houses, but people who are driven by passion and their love for the profession.
What about the idea of subsidies, government subsidizing?
Yes, subsidies, that's also something that we discuss, because we believe, when you look at most of these countries, especially in Senegal, we have seen the government, giving kind of subvention to the media houses. But, some people also are saying, okay, if the government gives you this subvention, they kind of control you. But, others are saying, no, the government can give subvention, but it doesn't in any way it's going to, control the media. Like we have seen in Senegal, yes, the government is giving them the funds, but they have a very vibrant media, who are actually, holding the government accountable. But it just depends, who you are as a media house.
Thank you very much there, Alu. Well, we'll take a short break. This is the halfway point. When we return, we have 5 more stories to go. welcome back. You're watching the Week in Review. We've already covered 5 stories, so we've got 5 more to go. We'll delve into them and provide some kind of context. And I've got here Mr. Aliou Cissé, my colleague. Now to our next story. The what? Gambia female automotive service providers. I've never thought that I would read something like that. Held a career day. Let's just take a watch and listen.
My colleagues that they were discouraging me. And then they said, no, if you do this, you will not see anything because the country is so hard. But I said to myself, no, what I can do, I will also be part of the national development of my country, which I always tell my colleagues.
Ms. Fatou Jammeh, the founder of the Gambia Female Automotive Service Providers. I never thought that I would read something like that, but it was quite refreshing, this sort of male preserve, as it were. Now, you know,
women are going
into it.
Good thing, I mean, to have this, I mean, female automotive service providers kind of coming together to at least, you know, have this career day. I mean, I think it is good in terms of, I mean, sharing experiences. I mean, how the experience has been in this, like you said, male-dominated, I mean, area. I mean, as women who are in this sector, I mean, it's good they gather on a day like this. I mean, like you said, but not only to share experience, but at least get to know each other and network, which is important. Yes, I mean, when you talk, people will say, okay, I mean, these are, you know, female automotive service providers. I mean, we need to support them. Yes, we need to support them. But equally also, I mean, they need to consider the fact that, I mean, people are coming to you because they need a good services. I mean, if, in as much as, yes, you know, we want to support, I mean, we want to, you know, empower you as a woman, I mean, you should ensure that, I mean, people coming to you also get, I mean, good services that at least will encourage you to come back. But if people are coming to you and then they are not getting what they want, they wouldn't come back. And then, but again, it's a good thing, and we hope the government will provide them with more support, I mean, to maybe funds to at least help them get the needed equipment that will help them sustain, I mean, what they're doing.
That's it. For me, really, the interesting thing was how sort of they're challenging, as it were, breaking barriers, because we've got this, what I call gendered jobs. Mention a nurse, automatically think of a woman. Mention a doctor, automatically think of a man. That sort of thing, that breakdown, which is quite healthy. And if we're going to take care of employment in this country, we need a lot of that.
We need a lot of that, and this will also help in reducing the unemployment rate in this country, because I know she has a mechanism around canifin, and I understand she has a couple of people who are working under her, and which is good, because it's going to help in
and one wouldn't feel limited because of your gender, not ability or other really more relevant consideration, but merely gender.
And I think, I mean, once we do this and empower this kind of people, I mean, it will also inspire others, I mean, to also venture into this sector and help, I mean, creating more employment for people.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there, Aliou. To our next story. During the week, what they call the Malaria and Neglected Tropical Diseases Research Capacity Development is a consortium of 7 medical research organizations established in Africa. They had a meeting in the Gambia. Let's just take a watch and listen.
I look forward to very engaging and more scientific insights into malaria research and the cutting-edge research that you're conducting under MACAD. And over the next few days, I also would like to get more insights.
Research training, we develop new curricula, malaria elimination. We have increased our capacity in GFCP. Safeguarding also is a very important aspect, and equity. And now, scientific citizenship also, as I mentioned earlier, community and political engagement is a very important topic for us. As you can see now, our vision is to develop the future African scientific leaders and to have a positive impact, high consideration of parts, to have one leadership in African-led research.
We just heard from Dennis Rutendo, Senior Manager, SFA Foundation, I think that's Science for Africa Foundation, and Professor Omar Gay, Director of MACAD, the Malaria and Neglected Tropical Diseases Research Capacity Development. He's the chair in Senegal. That is it. research, doing it for ourselves. I mean, recently we always hack back to COVID-19 and all the nasty lessons that we had to learn, that you really have to do it for yourselves, isn't it?
It's important. I mean, it's good that, I mean, MRC hosted this. I mean, this is important, I mean, meeting. I mean, we all know malaria is one of the leading killers in the sub-region, and having African researchers also coming together to, you know, start doing something, I mean, I think is commendable, because it's important. Most of the time we only tend to depend more on researchers outside the continent, but having our own people now coming up and, you know, to come together and work and collaborate, I mean, to come up with something that is tangible, something that will help in fighting malaria is commendable. And I hope, I mean, the outcomes of this meeting, I mean, will be followed by concrete implementation and frequent follow-ups, because that also matters after these meetings. It shouldn't just stop, I mean, after the meeting. I hope, I mean, whatever is being discussed and agreed upon at this meeting is something that they will follow up by, so that by the time they meet next year or maybe any time, I mean, they will have something to look back and say, this is exactly what we have been able to achieve, and, you know, these are some of the challenges that we are facing. So that will going to give them a clear roadmap as to where they're heading.
Absolutely. The problem of the execution culture that we need recently, was it this week, we read the president of Vietnam taking a swipe at African leaders for not having that execution culture. We talk, we like the microphone.
And when it comes to implementation, it's always a problem.
Anyway, so we'll see where this one takes us. Now to our next story. During the week, 27 Gambians were repatriated from Mauritania. Why was that? We'll discuss later. Let's just take a look at this clip and listen.
When I was arrested, I wasn't told why. I had all my documents with me. It happened after I finished work, around 5 in the evening. I had just performed ablution and was about to pray when I had a knock on my door. When I opened it, they introduced themselves as police officers. They asked if we had any documents, and we said yes. After showing them our papers, they asked if we could go with them to the police station.
Yes, with that story, the reason why I focus on the returnee, his name is Suleiman Fane, is that we had covered on our African News Roundup, and this particular returnee in Guinea was complaining that he had his documents with him. It appears as if this wasn't about documents. They were all legit. That's what he said. But still, they were bundled, put into really vehicles, and then put into very difficult circumstances, that the person said there. So you don't mind them being returned, but the manner in which these things are done and the fairness of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I find it very unfortunate that, I mean, we can't even freely travel in Africa, and yet we expect it to be so smooth for us to travel abroad. I mean, imagine leaving the Gambia to go to Mauritania, and you are just bundled back to your country for reasons that you don't even know. I mean, they ask for documents, you provided, and then you are just bundled. I mean, for me, there should be clear explanation as to why are they returned back to the country. I mean, if you are there without documents, I mean, there's also a whole process that, I mean, the authorities can follow. I mean, we have these diplomatic channels between Banjul and Nouakchott. I mean, we have our embassy in Mauritania. So whatever the reason is, I mean, like you said, I mean, is very unclear at the moment. But we know Mauritania has been a normal route now for most of these people who are embarking on this irregular migration. So, I mean, I'm not saying that could be the reason, but again, I mean, whatever is being done, I mean, the dignity of these people must be respected at all times, because it's important. You remember at some point, I mean, even Barrow sent an envoy to Mauritania, his foreign minister, Dr. Mamadou Tangara. Equally also, there was an envoy from Mauritania who also met the president. So, I mean, but sometimes, you know, I mean, they go and just discuss in closed door. We don't know exactly what the message is. All we hear is that, you know, a goodwill message from your counterpart to the other president. But I think sometimes it's good that, you know, they come out and tell us in plain terms, I mean, what exactly is going on, and, you know, why are they sending envoys to one another. Yes, I know certain things are closed door, but sometimes it's good that the public also know what is happening.
Absolutely, and we also hope that the Foreign Office, would talk to these people and really get a picture of what's been happening. And when we consider that, from our report, we said that there are nearly 10,000 Gambians living in Mauritania. This is just 27. It's not really a huge issue. Of course, for the 27, it's something big, but in the broader scheme of things, it's not much of a diplomatic incident. It's a diplomatic incident. Okay, thank you very much there, Aliu. To our next story, Dr. Fatou Baldeh, Gambian activist, now internationally renowned, isn't she? One of the top women, what is it, Time Woman of the Year, 2025. Let's just listen.
Personally, it's a significant milestone for me in both my professional journey, but also in my advocacy. One of the things that I would consider impactful is the fact that myself as a survivor, I've been able to find my voice where I do not consider myself as a victim, but as a survivor, where I am using my experience and my voice to effect change.
Absolutely. We just heard that from Dr. Fatou Baldeh, MBE, a member of the Order of the British Empire. Quite an achievement. I added it there, you know, as an inspirational piece, as it were.
It is. I mean, for me, she has been an exemplary ambassador for the country. I mean, this is not the first time that she's being awarded, I mean, internationally. I mean, I think the last one was from the U.S. State Department in recognition of her stance and advocacy against FGM, which she is a victim of, I mean, or a survivor of. But I mean, like you said, it is good. I mean, this shows that, I mean, hard work, I mean, every hard work comes with its reward, and that's what we have seen, what we are saying. I mean, it's by no means, I mean, a small feat for her, I mean, to be part of the, I mean, to be listed as among name or of course, I mean, one of the Time magazines, I mean, Women of the Year for 2025. We wish her all the best and encourage her to keep up the good work that she is doing.
Absolutely, and Time magazine, you see, there's body awarding, as it were, making these recognitions. As it were, it's a reputable publication. It's been around for God knows how long.
Exactly, it is, and that's why I said just having her name on that list, I mean, tells that, I mean, the world is watching, I mean, and they recognize what she is doing, and that's why wherever you are in this world, just believe in what you are doing. People are watching, the world is watching, and one day someone somewhere else is watching, and you know they will acknowledge what you are doing. So you don't really need to be bothered as to who is saying, clapping for you what you are doing at that particular moment. Always remember that, I mean, there's a bigger picture. Someone very far is watching.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there, Aliu. Now to our final story. President Barrow during the week met the UN Secretary General's envoy for West Africa. Let's just take a watch and listen.
Through consultations, we believe that an agreed solution for a constitution might be found. Politicians are precisely there to find a solution for the problems and to find a solution, an agreed solution. It's one of these responsibilities of the political class, but also of civil society organizations and population. And this is a stage in the process also to prepare better the country for elections to take place in 2026.
There we heard Mr. Leonardo Santos Simao, the UN Secretary General Special Representative for West Africa and the Sahel. It's about the constitution, the solution there. It's still about, we had Ibn Chambers some time back. And then, you know, so this is it's a sticky one, isn't
it? It is. I mean, it shows that, I mean, the international community is still concerned about this. I mean, the issue of the draft constitution, which is still pending. And when he was in the country, I understand he met several stakeholders, including, I mean, both the majority leader and the minority leader of the National Assembly, to see how best, I mean, they can find a lasting solution or a consensus in adopting the draft constitution. Like you and I know already. I mean, already, you know, the political, I mean, players have their opposing stand to the draft constitution, and he believes, I mean, through dialogue, I mean, a lot can be achieved, but for how long are we going to continue to have dialogue? I think people have been organizing series of dialogue over this draft constitution, but it seems, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, even though, I mean, the draft constitution was supposed to come back to Parliament during the last session, it was deferred to the next ordinary session. But even with that, I mean, is it not just going to be a formality of having the draft in Parliament? But the chances of, you know, it being passed in Parliament, the chances are quite slim, as far as, I mean, going by the current standing of both, I mean, the NPP and the UDP over the draft constitution. Yes, I mean, as he said, I mean, the UN system, I mean, is available and ready to support the Gambia, and of course, I mean, by funding for them to have the dialogue, and of course, I mean, facilitate, I mean, people that will spearhead the dialogue. But it is what it is, and let's just see, I mean, what his visit to the country, I mean, will mean for the stakeholders who are deeply involved in the draft constitution.
But you see, Ali, why has this sort of remained so intractable, so difficult to deal with? You know what I mean? We've got a national dialogue. We've been meeting now for God knows how long. The interparliamentary committee, they're there. So everybody's been talking. Why has it been so difficult? What's like really the major barriers that's been difficult to move?
Yeah, I think for me it is the fact that it is more like us against them. We know when the 2020 draft was brought to Parliament, I mean, we know that, I mean, the NPP and the allies, I mean, completely voted against it. The UDP was in support, and now it is coming back. You know, there have been so many changes, I mean, to the draft, and now some of them are calling it the Barrow's 2024 draft constitution, which he has denied. And like he told me during my last interview with him, that he is willing and open to sit down with even the leader of the UDP to discuss this draft constitution. When are they going to have that? I mean, even Chambers was here. I understand. I mean, he also convened a very close door meeting between the president and the leader of the UDP. The outcomes of that meeting is not clear. But I mean, but like you said, I mean, it's more about politics now. It's more about politics. But what many people are saying is that, I mean, they prefer the 2020 draft constitution, even though it has some controversial clauses in that. But I believe, I mean, with dialogue, I mean, they should be able to, I mean, do that. But isn't it late too? I mean, because, I mean, some are saying, okay, before the executive will have even make that amendments. I mean, that the dialogue should have preceded. I mean, the executive just going and then just making those amendments to the draft constitution. It's like, you know, you've already taken your decision and you want to tell me let's dialogue. Dialogue over what? I mean, if we are a dialogue, we should dialogue over the 2020 draft constitution, which is the original one, which was prepared by the CRC.
And last year, at some point, was it in the middle of the year, when the president said he had hoped that by December there would be a referendum, wasn't it? Yes,
exactly. He said so because, I mean, we have to understand, even the Gambia was even under pressure from ECOWAS. It was part of ECOWAS communique in one of their summits that the country must work on having a new constitution. And then, you know, all these things were part of the communique, and because of that, also, Gambia is also, maybe also, the Gambia is also trying to prove to ECOWAS that we are committed to this cause. I mean, this is what we are doing. And then just to have a formality, perhaps, just to have a constitution being placed in the National Assembly. If it's rejected, well and good, we have done our parts. We have, you know, submitted the draft to Parliament. So that's the issue now. But at the end of the day, I mean, all that the country needs is that we need a new constitution that will also serve, I mean, for posterity. We don't need a constitution that will just be amended every now and then.
Can you see a situation where this thing can drag on until the 2026 election?
I'm for saying that happening, even if they bring the draft constitution to Parliament. Like I said, the chances of having it passed is very slim. So I don't foresee a new constitution, I mean, by 2026 election.
So at the bottom, is this simply about partisan politics? You have people on that side, in the party, they've taken a certain dogmatic stance, and another party taking another dogmatic stance, instead of being pragmatic. Pragmatists can work together, never mind the party.
Exactly.
But when you're just so dogmatic in your position, then it's difficult to shift it.
And unfortunately, that's exactly what we have seen. I mean, it's more about, okay, you voted against the last one, we are also saying no because perhaps you believe this one is in your favor. And then that is kind of playing a part in this whole thing. But like you said, politics, you cannot actually take politics out of it.
That's it. So it's just thinking, how can this be in my favor?
Exactly.
That's a curious way of thinking, isn't it?
But
what would be in the best interest? As
because
it were. Imagine when we are not there.
Exactly.
What would I regard to be fair?
Exactly. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if there is no constitution, then we have no option but continue with the 1997 constitution that we said is Jammeh's constitution.
What a thought to end on. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you so much.
We've come to the end of this program. And thank you very much, Mr. Lamin Soko. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.